In this video, I'm going to tell you what it's been like living in France for the last 3.5 weeks, what we've done while we've been here, buying a property in France or our limited experience of it so far, and also talk to you about trips I've been on, shops I visited, and of course what I bought at Sephora. Oh, and hello and welcome to Beauty by Des. Welcome back. So we've been in France for the last 3.5 weeks. We're going back on Friday. It's Sunday as I film this. And we've had a fantastic time, and part of me would like to stay here. And one of the things we've been thinking of doing, and one of the reasons we've been here for so long, it's the longest we've ever stayed in France, and we have visited France many, many times over the years, is because we've been thinking about buying a property here. Now, we have thought about whether we want to move to France lock, stock and barrel, or whether we want to buy a small property here and keep a property in the UK. And I'm from London, by the way, for those of you who are new to my channel. Now, we're in a town called Pézenas, which is in southwest France, in the Eyebrow department, which is effectively a county, a département. And we're about 25 minutes from the coast, but we're in the southwest of France, and we know the southeast very well. We don't know the southwest quite as well. And the southwest is not as sprawncy, if you like, as the southeast. The southeast is where the Riviera is, where Cannes and Nice are, Monte Carlo and all of that. Whereas the southwest is a quieter, less populated area. It doesn't have a Monaco in it, obviously. So it's not going to draw the super rich. It's a much calmer, quieter place, although I think in the summer it gets incredibly busy because it has vast expanses of beach. In fact, the beaches, and my experience of the beaches over this side of the Rhone, if you like, on the southwestern coast, is that they are very sandy, very flat. There's lots of them, but they're not quite as picturesque as the eastern side where you've got rocks and you've got mountains by the sea. Here, there aren't any mountains until you start getting towards the Pyrenees. Here it's much flatter, and consequently you can get huge expanse of sand, but you don't get the variety, if you like, perhaps that you might get in the southeastern corner. So it's a different aesthetic, and that makes it more affordable, which is one of the reasons we've thought about looking for a property on this side of the southern coast. So having identified that this was the area we wanted to look in, or at least concentrate on, we have started to look at properties. So Pézenas does have some lovely properties, and some of them are concentrated in the old town and some are kind of on the outskirts. There's sort of a ring road, if you like, and outside the ring road there are lots of residential areas which have lovely properties. And we actually saw a house that we really liked in one of these residential areas. But looking at the properties in Pézenas itself, in the centre of the historic town, as they call it, they are stunning. They really are beautiful. They've got gorgeous balconies. In fact, all the historic town houses and apartments have these amazing balconies, wrought iron, absolutely stunning. And one of the ones that we looked at, one of the houses we looked at yesterday, looks out onto one of the squares. I mean, it's just amazing. It didn't have much of an outside space, but it was gorgeous. And we also looked at a huge house just down the road, which didn't have a great view, but it had the most amazingly inventive cour, as they call it, like a sort of courtyard, which was beautifully furnished and really cleverly arranged so that you had a little outside kitchen, or sort of semi-outside kitchen. You could sit in this courtyard and keep cool during the summer because it does get really hot here. But French properties are really quite different from what we're used to in the UK, I would say. Sometimes they're arranged quite quirkily. They're not quite as sort of straightforward somehow as ours seem to be. I would say that our properties are quite simple, really. They tend to be downstairs living room, kitchen, maybe a downstairs loo, and then upstairs bedrooms and bathrooms. We don't go in for mezzanines like they do here. The French seem to love a mezzanine. I don't know why. The house that we looked at, which is in this residential area, has a mezzanine, which is lovely. But what goes with a mezzanine is a staircase, and it's usually an open tread staircase, and I don't like them. I find them quite scary. Also, I don't like a staircase coming into a living room. So that was one of the drawbacks of this house in this residential area. So this is where we're at the moment in terms of property. We are humming and hawing. We haven't made a decision on whether we want to put an offer in. And the other thing that we've understood about buying a property in France is it's not the same as the UK. And the UK system is awful, and I'm sure all of us in the UK think it is, because people can pull out at the last minute. There's no binding contract until you've actually signed and given your 10% deposit, which can take weeks. Whereas here, I think my understanding is, and of course I'm not a French lawyer and I don't know half the ins and outs of it, but my understanding is once you make an offer, that is a binding contract, and you also have to have the finances ready to go. Whereas in the UK, it's not quite as firm as that. So there are lots of things that we need to be aware of, and that's why we're unlikely to make an offer while we're here. Because we need to go home and think about it, I think, because you can get caught up. You know what it's like. You can get caught up in the moment, and we don't want to do that. So having said that, we are really bad at making decisions, really bad. So I don't know whether we will or not. We're thinking about it. But this house was nice. It just had a few issues, like it was in the residential area where there are no shops, although you can walk into town in about 15 minutes, and it had the open tread staircase, which is not my cup of tea, although I'm sure you could do something about that, but you probably couldn't do anything about having a staircase that came down into the living room. So that's where we are with property. So let me tell you a little bit more about the area and what we've been enjoying while we've been here. We've loved this apartment, by the way, and I'll put the details in the description box below of this apartment. The owners actually have 2 apartments in this block, and I think it's about 4 or 5 apartments in total, and we've loved being here. It doesn't have an outside space, so whether you want to be here in the summer, I don't know. It does have balconies, but you can't go out and sit in them or anything like that, and it doesn't have views, but they're beautifully furnished, incredibly comfortable, very tasteful, and it's really close to the centre. It's literally a hop, skip and a jump to the main square where all the shops are, and it's delightful, and the restaurants as well. So we've loved staying here. We've been to the coast. So our first trip was to Cap d'Agde, which is about 25 minutes from here. We had lunch by the beach in a restaurant. It's very low key. It's very relaxed. It's not fancy schmancy at all. But I can imagine in the summer it'd be a lovely beach to be on because it's got rocks. So it's a bit more scenic than just a sort of flat beach, which is what you've got at Marseille-en-Plage. Now, I went to Marseille-en-Plage thinking that it was where Deborah Robertson, who I follow on Substack, who's a food writer, had moved to. But actually, she'd moved to Marseille-en-Port, which is just along the way. So we did go to Marseille-en-Plage first. And it's a bit weird because when you drive in to the beach, you've got all these cafes and bars, which I imagine in the summer will be buzzing, but they're quite sort of touristy, let's put it that way. They're not really my cup of tea, but you can see that they would do really well in the summer. And then you come to this vast expanse of beach, very flat, but very wide, very deep. And you can imagine that would be absolutely packed in the summer. Although there's no shade anyway, you'd have to bring your own parasols and all of that sort of thing. And then I realised that actually she wasn't at Marseille-en-Plage, she was at Marseille-en-Port. So another day we took a trip to Marseille-en-Port, and that is a really beautiful little port just south of the town of Marseille. It's got restaurants which again weren't really open because we're out of season, although I think they're going to start to open in the next few weeks. And it looks like it's very expensive in parts because there's some quite swishy looking developments there. But that was very attractive and we enjoyed visiting that. And if we'd been a little bit later in the season, we probably would have gone and eaten there, but there was very little open when we went. And then, because we're near to Montpellier, of course, being me, I wanted to go shopping. So one day I took the bus to Montpellier. Now I have to tell you, this bus, it cost €2. €2. What can you get for €2 these days? Not very much, I would say, except a bus to Montpellier. Now it's about an hour on the bus, so that's pretty good value. I couldn't quite believe it when I got on the bus because I was going to pay by card. So I got my card out and the bus driver looked askance and was sort of almost laughing at me. So then I got out a €20 note. And again, he looked with disdain and just said, it's €2. So I thought, okay, fine. I wasn't quite sure I'd heard him properly, but anyway, I gave him €2 and that was it. And when I got to Montpellier, The bus drops you off at a tram station, but I was a little bit nervous at that point about catching the tram to the centre of Montpellier, so I decided to get an Uber. And actually I'm glad I did, because I had a chat with the Uber driver and he told me that Montpellier at the moment is full of roadworks because they're putting in a new tram line. And actually I have to say the tram system, which I did navigate on the way back, is really good and it's free. Amazing. So €2 there, €2 back to Pézenas, and a free tram service. I mean, you can't argue with that, can you? It was so easy. So anyway, I got the Uber into town and I knew where I wanted to go because the Sephora is in this big shopping centre, which is very close to where we stayed when we first arrived. Because when we first arrived, we had one night in Montpellier before we drove to Pézenas. So got to the shopping centre, went to Sephora, which I'll tell you about in a sec. But the first thing I wanted to do was look at some clothes shops because I thought, well, maybe I'll find some brands that are difficult to get hold of in London. And I found a Mango, which of course I love anyway. And of course we have Mango in the UK. And what was great about this Mango was it was, I suppose because it was a weekday in January, normally I don't get weekday time to go shopping in London anyway. But it was lovely and quiet and it was well set out, the store. Sometimes the stores at Mango, like the one in Brent Cross, is usually a bit of a mess. This one was well laid out. So I took a load of things into the changing room to try on. And in my quest to find a pair of black tailored trousers, or any tailored trousers to be honest, that fit me, I did try on a few pairs. But unfortunately, none of them worked out. However, I did come away with a cream jumper and a brown cardigan. And what I really liked about these is they're definitely in the spring range. So they're a bit merino woolish. They're a bit softer, I think, and I'm really pleased with them both. Now, before I tell you what I bought in Sephora, I just want to mention that after I'd been to Sephora, the sun was shining. It was a beautiful day. It must have been about 18, I think, on that day. And so I went to look for somewhere to sit and I went to a cafe. I found this lovely cafe in the square and I had the most delicious lunch and a glass of white wine. It was such a treat. I rarely drink at lunchtime, but it was just one of those days where the sun was out. The cafe was perfectly placed for people watching and I just loved sitting there with my glass of wine, my salad, my chips. I love a salad and chips. That's my favourite lunch. If I'm eating out, I absolutely love a salad with some chips on the side, and I just had a lovely relaxing half hour or so, people watching and eating my lunch. So here's my little haul, and it is quite small. So the first couple of things I bought were some hair care, and I got this Colorwow Raise the Root, which I had mistakenly thought was a dry shampoo. I don't think I'd got my glasses on, but actually I have been using this and I do think it is giving my hair a little bit of body, so quite enjoying that. Very, very expensive, by the way, Colorwow, really expensive, and I'm not sure, had I not been kind of carried away about being in a Sephora in France, I might not have bought it, but I think it is quite good. I'm enjoying using it at the moment anyway. And then the other thing I got was another dream coat. I've already used this before, another Colorwow dream coat, a little mini, which I think is a really good size because you only need a little bit if you haven't got that long hair. And I do think this is helping to protect my hair. My hairdresser recommended it, so I thought it was worth getting. And it's just a mini, but again, quite pricey here. Now, you're going to laugh, but one of the things I bought was a set of false eyelashes. Now, let me tell you why. One of my lovely subscribers suggested I try false eyelashes. And I'll tell you what, while I've been here, I recorded a video with the false eyelashes set that she suggested I get. And it was an absolute disaster. Now, I should have probably practiced it before I had a go, but it was terrible. And I'll insert a little bit of footage so you can see what the end result was. It was not a great success. So I think that practicing is obviously going to make perfect. And so I thought I'd get another set. I was thinking about having another go, but actually I haven't done. But I will do because I think it would be fun to do and see whether I can make it work. It obviously does require some practice. And I had watched videos on how to do it, but I think it's the actual application bit. Once you've done all the preliminaries, that's fine. But actually sticking the eyelashes onto your lids and helping them and making them stay there is going to be the challenge. So I think it does require some practice. So at some point I will give this a go. Then I bought this lovely Natasha Denona palette, which by the time you see this video, you will have seen me applying in my Huda Beauty Easy Blur Foundation try on. And I think this is a really lovely palette. This is one of those little minis that I got caught up buying when I was waiting to pay. And I don't have a Natasha Denona mini. I do have the, what's the big Natasha Denona famous palette? I can't remember the name of it now, but I do have that one. And I just saw these colours and thought they were nice neutrals. And also I like the fact that there was only one shimmer. So I have enjoyed this palette and I will play about with it more. And I really like the fact that it's small and easy to use. Oh, it's the Soft Glam palette that I've got. That's the one. And then talking of the Huda Beauty Easy Blur Foundation, of course I bought that, which if you haven't seen my video, I'll link it down below if you can find out what I thought about this. Now, I didn't just go to Sephora, I also went to Kiko Milano because they've got a standalone store in the shopping centre. And I bought these 3 products and I'm really pleased with them. This is their eyebrow pencil, which I think is a dupe for the Victoria Beckham eyebrow pencil. And I'm going to do a dupes video soon on Victoria Beckham because I need to find some more products. So they didn't have everything in stock in the Kiko Milano that I wanted to try, but I do think this pencil is good. I also bought this Smart, it's called a Smart Colour Eye Pencil, which again, I thought was a little bit similar to the Kajal pencils. Now their Kajal pencils, the Kiko Milanos, are all black, I think, so they wouldn't be exact dupes for the Victoria Beckham Kajals. But I thought this was a similar colour. And then this one, this is actually very good. And I think there's another shade that I wanted to get. This is their Wet and Dry Shadow, I think it's called, although why you'd want to use it wet, I don't know. But I thought this looked pretty close to this, which is the very expensive but gorgeous Lid Luster by Victoria Beckham. This is in Mink and this is in 15. So I do think that Kiko Milano has some interesting products that could well be dupes for Victoria Beckham, but watch this space as there will be a video coming soon on that. So that's it. Will we buy in France? I'm afraid I can't answer that right now. We're going to have a think about it when we go back to London, see if we still feel the same. And whatever our decision is, of course, I'll let you know in a future video. So thank you so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed already, please do, and give this video a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it. And if you'd like to hear more from me, I have a monthly newsletter. And in that, I talk about all things beauty, fashion and lifestyle, and entertainment and other content creators, and I aim to give you first dibs before I do a video on those particular topics. And thank you so much for watching. It means the absolute world to me, it really does. And I hope you're all doing really well, and I look forward to seeing you on my next video. Au revoir. Bye.